United States Coast Guard cutter Bertholf is the latest weapon in America's war on drugs.
Currently have a couple 50 caliber machine guns mounted on the bow in case this turns south.
She's on the front line, hunting down drug smugglers on the high seas.
Now, go fast, go fast, go fast. Set LE phase 2 for suspect go fast.
Bertholf is loaded with the latest weapons, chase boats, and a helicopter gunship.
The vessel is not showing a flag. 3 people on board.
U.S. Coast Guard cutter Bertholf, a maritime super cop, busting drug smugglers in the Eastern Pacific. Panama City, Panama. The pride of the American Coast Guard, the national security cutter Bertholf is getting ready to leave port after a few days of shore leave for her 120-member crew. She's in the middle of a tough 3-month maritime law enforcement and anti-narcotics patrol in the Eastern Pacific. Bertholf's sleek hull is 127 meters long. On the bow, her main 57mm deck gun. A high-tech computerized bridge. Below that, the CIC, or Combat Information Center. Further aft, the helicopter hangars and flight deck. In the stern, the boat launch or notch. This morning, the crew has assembled to hear Executive Officer Dave Ramasini brief them on the mission ahead.
Once we clear the harbor, the canal, and head past territorial seas today, we're looking to do boat ops and helo ops. So prepare yourself for that. But our mission this morning is to get Bertholf safely back to sea and back on our mission. Captain.
Just appreciate everybody's compliance and good behavior in Panama. Hope you had a fun time. Glad everybody got back safe and sound. And as XO said, just safely let's get out of the harbor and let's get back to work. Any questions?
The crew hauls in the mooring lines and Bertholf gets underway. She's heading to sea through the western end of the Panama Canal into the Pacific and waters favored by the drug cartels. The Panama Canal is thick with ship traffic and there's always the risk of collision. Captain John Prince's #1 priority is the safety of his ship and crew.
What I'm primarily focused on is where is my ship in relation to the center of the channel? Do I have any traffic coming up from behind me? My crew is trained, they know what to do, they know what they should be doing, they know how to do it. I can kind of stand back and keep the big picture about what's happening.
22-year-old Ensign Melissa Martinelli is feeling the pressure. She graduated from the Coast Guard Academy just 6 months ago. Under supervision and with the guidance of a Panamanian harbor pilot, she's driving this $650 million ship for the very first time.
Right now, I'm conning the ship. We're getting underway and heading down the channel. We need to ensure that we have a clear passage.
Up ahead, a small fishing boat is in Bertholf's way.
All right, so come. Do you have a fishing vessel right off the bow? You want to come left to take him down our starboard side?
I think he's probably going to get out of your way, so just take him down your starboard side.
Surrounded by fellow officers and crew, Ensign Martinelli knows she's expected to perform as officer of the deck.
The level of responsibility is enormous. As the conning officer or the OOD, the captain has entrusted you to ultimately keep the ship safe.
Now clear of the Panama Canal, the harbor pilot has done his job and is picked up for the next customer ship. Bertholf is heading south towards danger and a smuggling route called Go Fast Alley, used by cocaine smugglers in high-speed motorboats. It's a 300-kilometer stretch of water that runs between Panama and Colombia, and it's here that a very high-stakes game of cat and mouse is played out.
The international law affords us the right to approach a vessel and visit a vessel to determine its nationality. And that's really the hook that allows us to approach these vessels to determine what they're doing out here.
The U.S. Coast Guard is part of the Department of Homeland Security, and Bertholf's the first of a new line of national security cutters known as the Legend class that can be deployed worldwide. She's powered by twin diesel engines and a gas turbine for a top speed of 30 knots or 56 kilometers per hour. This afternoon, Bertholf's helicopter and chase boats will be launched to practice intercepting drug boats. The ship's twin-engine Dolphin helicopter isn't an ordinary search and rescue aircraft. It's essentially a helicopter gunship designed to stop boats at sea by shooting out their motors if required. It belongs to the Coast Guard's elite Helicopter Interdiction Tactical Squadron, or HITRON. For security reasons, the pilots and crew can't be identified.
HITRON's primary mission is counter-narcotics. We are the only Coast Guard air station that is authorized to use precision fire from the helicopter.
Helicopter Control Officer is another of Ensign Martinelli's multiple roles.
Shooter tower, you are clear to take off to port. Take signals from the LSO. Green deck. Green deck.
On the flight deck, the LSO, or Landing Signals Officer, gives the final clearance for takeoff.
As the helicopter control officer, you need to be aware of what's going on and have an understanding of what the different teams of people are doing, and ultimately land and launch the helo safely.
This afternoon, it's target practice for the ship's helicopter. In real situations, the chopper will try to stop suspect vessels with warning shots first.
If they still don't stop, at that point we'll go into disabling fire. We'll use a .50 caliber sniper rifle to disable the engines one by one until the vessel complies and stops.
A cardboard box that's a stand-in for the motor on a smuggling boat is put through the high-caliber shredder.
The way the gun is positioned out the door, oftentimes the muzzle blast hits the flying pilot in the face, which can be kind of a challenge at night. It's like getting kicked in the head by a horse. It's not uncommon to come back from a flight after having fired the gun and having gunpowder on your visor and oftentimes in your teeth. A lot of fun.
Two of Bertholf's 3 small chase boats have also been launched, and they're practicing high-speed takedowns. Bosun's mate second class Jonathan Lee is hoping to qualify as the boat's coxswain or driver during this patrol. The safety of his fellow crew members is in his hands.
Make sure you're checking the throttle. Yeah. Come up the waves. Ain't better ride. All right, come down a little bit.
It's a requirement for my job here to get qualified, to help out the crew. It's a sense of accomplishment.
Captain Prince has a perfect view of the chase boats from the starboard bridge wing.
Hold a steady position, and then you guys can come back and forth on them. This is high-speed, close proximity maneuvering. So what our small boat is practicing here is their tactics and techniques for stopping a non-compliant vessel. And if the vessel doesn't heed their command to stop at that point, as the situation dictates, we're prepared to use whatever force is required.
Captain Prince trains his crew hard, but they always need to be ready for the real deal.
I mean, we could run across somebody in the next 10 minutes, so you never know when a case is going to pop up. We don't want to do too much training because then we fatigue our crew, but we have to balance that between let's make sure our folks are mission ready so when the case does happen, we're ready to go.
With the day's training complete, the helicopter is brought back to the ship.
Shooter tower, you are cleared to land over the center line with primary tie downs. Take signals from the LSO. Green deck. Green deck.
After engine shutdown, the helicopter is secured to the deck, but is always ready to take off at short notice. The chase boats are also brought back to the ship. For Jonathan Lee, the training session went according to plan.
On this boat, I'm feeling really comfortable. It's mostly the other boats that are giving me more trouble just because it's a new type of platform, a new asset, different style engines. I feel pretty confident about this one, and therefore I'm hoping to get qualified here really soon.
Ready to load! Ready to load!
A chase boat is hooked up and winched back aboard.
All right, kill it.
With the stern doors open, the other small boat is driven into the notch. After hours of intensive training, it's evening meal call in the mess. Tonight, rice pilaf, pork loin, chicken, and cupcakes.
In general, the food's really good here.
Now, positioned well offshore and out of sight of the drug cartels, Bertholf and her crew are poised for action.
Okay, the sun's going down, and this is when the action normally picks up as darkness comes. Always a game of cat and mouse. You know, we try to use the darkness to our advantage. They try to use the darkness to their advantage. So sometimes it's just a little bit of luck that makes it happen.
U.S. Coast Guard cutter Bertholf is ready to confront drug runners head-on as they try to smuggle cocaine into America. U.S. Coast Guard cutter Bertholf is just off the west coast of Panama. Her mission is to hunt down and arrest smugglers working for the drug cartels. But that requires the active cooperation of governments in the area. A Panamanian patrol boat drops off a naval officer to help coordinate operations and provide local knowledge in the hunt for drug smugglers.
Good afternoon, Bertholf. This is Misty, your operational planner, coming to you from the pilot house, here to brief you on this evening's event.
Ensign Beth Denicola briefs the crew on the night mission ahead.
Striker at 2000. Once Striker is airborne, we will be setting the boat lowering detail for the OTH. That's the plan. Stay classy, Bertholf, and stand by to catch some go fast.
Under cover of darkness, the ship's helicopter is getting ready for a dangerous night reconnaissance mission. With no moon and almost no horizon, the pilots must be focused and perform at the top of their game.
I would say that any pilot that is taking off on a really, really dark night from a cutter, whose heart isn't racing, should probably quit flying.
Rolling decks and spinning rotor blades can be a lethal combination. Helicopter Control Officer Ed Portway knows that lives depend on him doing his job properly, especially at night.
Well, there's just obviously the inherent dangers of operating at night after a long work day, and everybody is tired. So it's a lot easier for everybody to skip important safety steps, not do something on their checklist, and it makes it really easy for a hazardous situation to come up.
With the helicopter airborne, a chase boat is lowered down the side of Bertholf. Ensign Brock Blaisdell is in charge of tonight's mission.
Now I'm going to take my team, and basically what we're going to do is we're going to intercept contacts coming out from the beach. And if we can start a pursuit, we can vector our helicopter in and vector our the cutter in. There's always butterflies in the stomach, and it's a good thing, and the whole team feels it. We come together, we talk about what's going on, but we're fully equipped, we're well trained, and it's going to be safe and good.
But Bertholf isn't all alone. Overhead are maritime patrol aircraft searching for fast-moving targets. Satellites and other ships are also involved in the search. It's a complex hunt, coordinated thousands of kilometers away in Alameda, California, by Coast Guard commanders who have the big operational picture. Bertholf CIC, or Combat Information Center, is the brain, eyes, and ears of the ship. It's where information is processed, analyzed, and acted upon. Andre Montgomery is the air direction controller and is responsible for guiding the helicopter.
We're going to turn you, we're going to cut you off just a little bit and turn you more to the south and get you back on your track line. This search pattern is designed to detect the drug smugglers that are pretty much close to shore. Furthermore, once they get a contact and they sight it, we're asking some questions to see if it actually fits the profile of a drug smuggler.
So far tonight, no smugglers have been spotted, and the helicopter is brought back for another dangerous night landing.
The Bertholf actually has one of the larger flight decks of all the Coast Guard cutters. I'll tell you that taking off and landing during the day is very fun. Taking off and landing at night is not so much fun.
But just as the chase boat is about to be brought back aboard, a fast-moving target, a possible drug-running go-fast boat, is spotted right in front of Bertholf.
Now, go fast, go fast, go fast. Set LE phase 2 for suspect, go fast. Set LE phase 2 for suspect, go fast.
Our OTH is in pursuit of a possible target of interest that's making about 25 to 30 knots. We could tell it had 2 outboards. It was a Panga-style vessel. So they're about 4 miles ahead of us right now.
Captain Prince has engaged the ship's high-speed turbine engine, but he's relying on Bertholf's small, fast chase boat to stop the suspect vessel.
We're making about 27 knots here on the ship and slowly losing ground. But the small boat has a visual on them. They're probably about 600 yards separation right now.
May I show you time to intercept? About 10 minutes.
They just make a hard turn to port.
I think you guys are at the point where you probably want to go over.
With the suspect boat in sight, Bertholf's chase boat turns on its lights.
Bert 1, Shark 50, roger. They are off your port bow. Come left 5 degrees, over. Bert 1, Shark, do you still maintain visual? Roger, we have visual.
On the bow, Bertholf's gun crews are ready for action.
We currently have a couple 50 caliber machine guns mounted on the bow in case this turns south.
It's a full-on chase. Bertholf's small boat is in hot pursuit and closing in on the suspect vessel.
They are dead in the water right now. We're just standing by for tackle commander to give us permission to go aboard.
We are alongside. We have a suspect with their hands on their head. And we're maintaining station alongside the boat. Roger. Shark 50 is Bert 1. 3 people on board. Bert 1, Shark 50 is copy. Over.
Bertholf has been able to catch up and pulls alongside her chase boat and the suspect vessel.
Vessel is approximately 28 feet, fiberglass. Pure Suzuki, 150 horsepower outboard with 6 fuel drums on deck. Bert 1, Shark 50 is copy.
It's just after 1:20, and you know, Mom always said nothing good happens after midnight. And sure enough, we had a Panga speed bias. We had our small boat in the water, commenced pursuit of this vessel. They finally brought them to a stop. No shots fired this time. Looks like we had a couple Colombians coming all the way up from Colombia to Panama. A lot of fuel barrels on board. They said they're looking for some fishermen. We're working out with our tackle commander right now to get aboard and verify their claim.
It's going to be a long night. The suspected smugglers and their boat will be held until Panamanian authorities show up to take custody in the morning. Back on the bridge, Captain Prince is satisfied with the crew's performance.
Good night for the ship, good night for the Coast Guard, good night for our friends in Panama. Lots of fun. And we're getting paid.
It's just after dawn, and the suspects have spent the night under armed Coast Guard watch in the bow of their own boat. A search of the boat has come up empty. Bertholf may have been too late to catch these men red-handed with drugs.
We think that this matches the profile of a vessel they saw, and Panama's been looking for them for about 2 days, and we nabbed them. We suspect they may have dumped their load of contraband. I mean, this is what we're out here to do, and we're stopping the drugs before they reach America's doorstep. And to nab them down here and disrupt like we did, I mean, that's why we do what we do, and that's why we leave our families for months at a time.
A Panamanian patrol boat arrives to take the suspected drug smugglers into custody to face trial and possible jail time. Bertholf will remain at sea and continue her fight against the drug cartels and the unpredictable forces of Mother Nature. U.S. Coast Guard cutter Bertholf is nearing the halfway point of a dangerous 3-month-long anti-drug patrol. Today, Bertholf's damage control teams will be put to the test during a very realistic and terrifying toxic gas drill. That starts in the machine shop.
Con main control requests you set general emergency for toxic gas in 2 TAC 5.
Sensors have detected an invisible and highly flammable gas leak.
Now, gas. Toxic gas has been reported in the DC shop, compartment 2, away rapid response.
We'll help him get dressed up.
Gas. Toxic gas has been
We don't have a sound-powered phone.
Compartment 2, TAC 59, TAC 2. All hands, leave your general emergency billet. On you. Run right now. Secondary 4, 4, secondary now.
I need investigators and on-scene leader.
Bosun's mate second class Jonathan Lee has the critical job of damage control investigator.
Aye, investigators away. Minute 17.
It's his job to find the source of the gas leak. If this were real, one spark could potentially ignite the entire passageway. All boundary doors are closed, dogged down to seal in the gas. Meanwhile, the ship's first aid teams are also being tested. A crew member has suffered life-threatening injuries and is brought to the mess hall. Chief Corpsman Shannon Reck grades the team's performance.
Have an evisceration, need a Israeli bandage.
The reason why we picked this area as the primary battle dressing station is, number one, a lot of space. You can see, look around you, you've got a lot of potential operating table space. The second chest wound would be considered a paramount life threat, so as you notice, they tackled that first. You want to stabilize the life threat first. And then the abdominal wound, as grotesque as they can be, they're really not considered to be an immediate life threat. So it's a secondary wound, so they treated it second. So they learned not only how to treat wounds, but how to prioritize them.
One deck below, Jonathan Lee is now in the machine shop. The gas leak has been stopped, but the remaining gas needs to be vented quickly. And it all needs to be done wearing a claustrophobic mask and air tank.
It's pretty uncomfortable. A lot of sweat just pooling in the mask, really. So it's pretty brutal. It's pretty hot. Up and down ladders, back and forth.
But the toxic gas drill isn't over yet. Special venting pipes with water-driven non-sparking fans push the air out. Electric fans are too risky. One spark and everything could explode.
Energizing! You ready?
Good.
The damage control team has succeeded in venting the deadly toxic gas from the ship. This time it was just a drill. But for the crew, these exercises can make the difference between survival and disaster. Bertholf is now halfway through her 3-month patrol, and the crew is feeling the strain of working hard day in and day out. But when the time is right, it's also time to play hard. Today it's a combined steel beach and swim call. Out here, the deep end of this pool is 610 meters.
It's a Sunday afternoon. The crew's been working hard. We're actually about the halfway day of our patrol, 45 days in, so it's a nice opportunity for the crew to take a little break and have some fun. Every little break we can give the crew to make it not be work 24/7 pays dividends in the long run for all of us.
But not everyone has the day off.
We're shark standby in case anything we see in the water is going to potentially hurt somebody. Just standing by, keeping eyes on the water. That's all.
The break from the daily operational grind was a welcome relief, but it's time to get back to work hunting drug smugglers. The helicopter is ordered to go on a surveillance mission to look for possible targets. But an engine warning light keeps the helicopter grounded. It's a major setback. Bertholf's ability to hunt down smugglers is now limited to the small chase boats.
Unfortunately, our helicopter is down right now. The good news is we have parts being flown into theater, and we expect them to be airdropped tomorrow. The quicker we can repair that, it could be the difference between a case that's made and a case that gets away.
The tropical heat can create severe thunder and lightning storms that build very quickly. Tonight on the bridge, the crew has a front row seat on a spectacular light show. The weather is severe and potentially dangerous. Captain Prince orders everyone to stay inside.
A pretty good rainstorm out here with a whole lot of lightning, so we've secured all our topside hatches to ensure the ship doesn't take on any water. But generally speaking, all we can really do is just keep our folks inside the skin of the ship so they don't run the risk of being struck by any lightning.
At 3,600 tons, Bertholf is more than able to ride out the severe storm and still hunt down any drug smugglers who may be using the weather for cover. U.S. Coast Guard cutter Bertholf is 5,000 kilometers from home and on day 48 of her counter-narcotics patrol in the Eastern Pacific. She's in a stretch of water that's known as Go Fast Alley, a popular route for drug smugglers. This morning, it's been one rain squall after another, but a temporary lull in the weather gives the crew a chance to move the disabled helicopter into the hangar. Then, the weather turns dangerous. A waterspout, a maritime tornado is spotted nearby.
That's a big water spout. We're going to head inside just to be safe.
Clear the flight decks, close the hangar doors.
Hi, Captain. We're going to clear the flight deck and close the hangar doors. We're going to approach in squall, and there's a good water spout that came out of it. We just strapped the helo back down. So we're going to get in there, close the hangar doors, and make sure everybody's safe till this passes, and then we'll get the helo in the hangar.
Back on the bridge, Executive Officer Dave Ramassini gets a better look at the approaching weather system.
This is a batten down the hatches moment. If you looked at all we're trying to do is traverse the helo into the hangar this morning, and the best laid plans sometimes foiled by Mother Nature.
Below deck, life goes on. For some of the crew, that includes working towards a university degree while they're at sea. Today's subject, American history and Henry Ford.
This is the Pro Model T. He offered it, he said, I offer it in any color as long as it is black. Final agreement.
Professor Lahia Dominic is the only civilian aboard Bertholf. The transition from a land-based campus to a floating one has not been easy.
Yes, it has been difficult because of the seasickness, of course. I wasn't used to that, and I have been learning a lot about the job that the U.S. Coast Guard does. I had no idea how complicated it was, and that's very exciting, too. Yes.
One deck up and down the hall, the ship's limited space means the machine shop doubles as the barber shop. Machinery technician third class Tristan Perkins is Bertholf's unofficial barber.
Well, my last buddy, Scott, cut hair for everybody, and I helped him out one day. And people were like, oh, you cut hair too? So
we depend on somebody like Tristan to volunteer to cut hair in the evenings, and then we try to get down here if you're not on watch.
And like everything in the military, there are specifications and regulations.
Can't touch the ears, gotta be tapered to the back of the neck. I'm sure the official specification is about 300 pages long or something.
What do you want on top, Chief?
I don't know, surprise me.
All right.
The final touch is self-service with the shop vac.
Oh, I just made a bald spot. I'm sorry, Chief.
leg. We're going to turn you...
Operations Specialist Andre Montgomery shares his stateroom with 5 others. On other Coast Guard ships, it can be up to 20.
Hey, this will be, this is our berthing area right here. These staterooms aboard the Bertholf are the most luxurious I've seen. They're awesome. They got a lot of space in them. We got computers for each person, basically, for in here. It's awesome. I love it. And here's where I live, the coveted bottom rack. You can see it has the most space down here. Mrs. Holloway, actually.
Aboard Bertholf, portholes have been replaced by flat-screen TVs.
Well, this is essentially our view of the outside world for everybody on the crew. Right now, you're looking at the forward-looking infrared feed from our Combat Information Center. We're basically looking around us, you know, just trying to identify if anyone's out there.
Up top, the weather has cleared, and the disabled helicopter is brought into the hangar. A new part is expected soon. It should be delivered by plane and parachute in just a few hours. The gunners also take advantage of the weather and hold a live fire exercise on the bow with the .50 caliber machine guns. With the live fire exercise over, it's back to the mission at hand. On the bridge, the watch crew scan the horizon for drug smugglers. This particular watch has an unofficial title.
We call it Chick Watch right now because we're all female on the bridge. When I first reported last year, we only had a handful of women. We've had a lot more rotate through since I've been here. So we've been increasing in numbers and slowly taking over. Not completely. But.
Aboard Bertholf, women make up 20% of the ship's crew.
There's a lot of women on this boat, and I'd say they work just as hard as the men here do, and they do just as good of a job as the men do. So yes, Chick Watch continues. Yeah, Chick Watch.
Bertholf is now heading even further south, towards a target near the Galapagos Islands. A maritime patrol aircraft has spotted a possible drug-running mothership. The American Coast Guard cutter Bertholf is off the west coast of Panama and waiting for a special delivery. This P-3 Orion patrol aircraft has flown thousands of kilometers to airdrop a desperately needed spare part for Bertholf's helicopter. A chase boat is in the water and ready to recover the package. The plane makes a low 90-meter run downwind of the ship and makes the drop. Splashdown and a successful recovery. With the spare part back aboard, the flight mechanics don't waste any time replacing the broken equipment and getting the helicopter ready for action. For the last 24 hours, Bertholf's land-based commanders in the United States have been steering her towards a very suspicious fishing vessel, a possible drug-running mothership that's been spotted towing 2 pangas or go-fasts. The fishing boat fits the profile of a smuggling vessel. By nightfall, Bertholf is primed and ready. The helicopter is back in the game, and the chase boat crews are on standby. Sure enough, just before 10 p.m., it's showtime.
Now, go fast, go fast, go fast. Set LE phase 2 for suspect, go fast. Set LE phase 2 for suspect, go fast. Set flight quarters condition 1. The OTH is the pursuit boat, the SPC is the support boat. All LE personnel muster at the LE locker. Duty GM lay to the small arms locker.
The chase boat teams rush to the small arms locker for weapons and night vision gear. Ensign Brock Blaisdell will be leading one of the boat teams.
Basically what we have is we have a fishing vessel out in front of us with, it's got 2 small go-fast-like vessels in tow. We're gonna approach them fast and hard. Try to get them before they run maximum effort. Everything's going to be in play. The helo's going to be in play, both boats and the cutter itself.
Lieutenant Junior Grade Raphael Battier will be in charge of the actual boarding.
Right now I'm gonna load my weapon. 12 rounds for ammunition. My primary target is to board the actual fishing vessel and quickly gain control, captain, the crew on board. I'm bilingual, so that's where they're putting me. And since I'm armed, that's my primary goal. I feel like I'm on a roller coaster, just climbing, waiting for a drop. It'll hit its peak once we actually launch. Sir, I'm ready to go. Yes, sir.
Both chase boat teams launch and race towards the target.
Shooter, this is Tower. You're clear. Take off port. Take signals from the LSO. Green deck.
The helicopter is cleared for takeoff, and it too heads towards the target. It will hold back in support until the chase boats are close. In the Combat Information Center, Captain Prince coordinates the pursuit of the TOI, or target of interest.
HCL Con, is the Hilo airborne?
Tower from Striker. Airborne.
Con, Captain, go ahead and shift to gas turbine mode. Make your course 340. Maintain 12 miles distance from the TOI.
Roger, 50.
We're tracking the target. We've got the cutter in gas turbine mode, so we can increase our speed to about 26 knots. So we can also close the target at a high rate of speed. So,
Operations Officer Steve Adler talks to the chase boats.
Our boats are en route to the fishing vessel, and once they get close to the fishing vessel, we'll vector in our helo, and we'll simultaneously try to intercept it. The element of surprise is what we're trying to gain the most here. And ADC TA will make sure that the helo remains covert until we give them the word to light them up.
On the bridge, the drama of the chase continues to unfold. One of the chase boats is in trouble after smashing into a large wave and damaging the hull.
The sponson is the orange rubber part of the boat. Affects their stability slightly, but for now they're still in the fight.
Despite the damage, both of Bertholf's chase boats are closing in on the suspect fishing vessel. Back in the Combat Information Center, everyone is on edge.
Roger, we're alongside now. We're energizing our blue light, going over.
Bert 1's going over.
Bert 150, Roger, you going over.
Okay, let's look at 03. Where's 03? Let's have the helo go over. Okay. All right.
The helicopter reveals itself by turning on its powerful searchlight, and it appears the suspect ship is caught by surprise.
Okay, control shooter is established orbit around vessel.
With weapons at the ready, the Coast Guard boarding team orders the crew on the suspect vessel to gather on the bow with their hands on their heads.
We suspect this vessel is smuggling cocaine. It matches the profile. It has a lot of people on the boat. It's got 11 crew for a 45, 50-foot vessel with 2 Pangas in tow with pretty brand new 75 horsepower outboard. So it definitely matches the profile of a smuggling vessel.
Authorities have given permission to board and inspect the fishing vessel. In dangerous rolling seas, the Coast Guard team jumps aboard to begin the search for drugs. It will be a long and exhausting search. Ion scan wipes are used to detect any traces of cocaine. While the boarding team searches for drugs on the suspect vessel, the damaged chase boat is brought back aboard for repair.
Basically, the orange thing on the side that keeps us afloat, we call it a sponson. We hit a hard wave, came up and just landed real hard, and then we instantly noticed it had popped off, and immediately it's going through our minds is, oh, we're gonna sink. This is what keeps us afloat. So our engineer on board assessed the damage, started looking down at the hull, making sure that we're still good. He gave the A-OK to continue on, said we'd be good for a continuing pursuit, and we continued on to intercept the fishing vessel.
The standby boat is lowered into the notch and sent to the fishing vessel with a fresh boarding team to continue the search for drugs. It's now well into the next day, and 12 long hours since the suspect fishing vessel was stopped. It's been discovered that some of the crew members have prior drug smuggling convictions.
The smugglers are adept at their trade, so they have come up with intelligent or ingenious ways to try and hide the contraband. So always the possibility that they detected us as we were coming up from astern of them last night and dumped it over the side.
Even the two pangas are searched carefully for hidden compartments and drugs.
I mean, there are a lot of things that just don't add up here, but we can't find any additional product, if you will, as of yet. Whether there was counter-detection and possible jettison prior to our arrival, we'll never know.
The chase boats return to Bertholf. Any drugs are probably now resting on the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, drugs that will never reach the shores of North America.
We're bringing everybody up to speed on the case we're embarked on. Right now, boarding teams are recommended. We're boarding complete on this. With that, we'll gather our teams and head off for the evening. Thanks for your efforts. Great job, all hands today, making it happen.
Bertholf is now heading towards Costa Rica for supplies and fuel before getting back into the action. But she's still in prime cocaine smuggling waters. Coast Guard cutter Bertholf is at the end of month 2 of her 3-month counter-narcotics patrol. She's just hours away from Costa Rica and a few days of liberty for the crew.
We're gonna restock our fuel, we're gonna restock our food, and after a few days of rest, we'll be right back at it.
On the flight deck, the crew has assembled.
Good company, Paul, gather around. Good afternoon, shipmates. Great afternoon on board Bertholf. We're going to take some time this afternoon and recognize a few shipmates.
Jonathan Lee's small boat qualification is about to become official.
PM2 Lee, front and center. Again, terrific job with the qualifications on the special purpose craft, law enforcement, as well as the over-the-horizon rib. U.S. Department of Homeland Security, United States Coast Guard. This certify that BM2 Jonathan S. Lee has demonstrated superior abilities in both seamanship and leadership and is hereby qualified as a coxswain in the U.S. Coast Guard. Given this 18th day of October, Captain John F. Prince commanding. All right, just a reminder, everybody, we're in readiness condition. Got to be ready to rock and roll. We do have some air coverage tonight. Flying on our behalf, so we'll have the helo in ready status as well. But again, speed of the system, 150 knot aircraft, as well as the small boats, will get the job done once again. So well done.
Life at sea requires patience. The pier in Golfito, a small port on Costa Rica's west coast, was supposed to be free this morning. But plans and the weather have a way of changing.
6-7 hours ago, it was nice and sunny then. The clouds have rolled in and we get a taste of San Francisco, which is the ship's home port, it seems. It's like San Francisco without the chill. Restricted visibility, we're about 4 miles visibility. So as you can hear, we have the fog signal sounding. We've been waiting for this motor tanker to clear the pier. Looks like it's finally outbound, so we're about 4 miles from the pier, so it shouldn't be too long now.
Bertholf is now approaching the narrow channel just outside the port. The local harbor pilot is aboard for the final leg. By nightfall, Bertholf finally makes it pierside, and the crew can take a break from chasing smugglers.
Well, we're pulling in for a port call, take a few days off. I believe it's well-deserved for everyone on the board.
We're going to give them some time off while we're in port here in Costa Rica and be right back to it here in a few days.
But the mission is far from over. Just a few days later, they're back on patrol and Bertholf gets lucky.
Go fast, go fast. Set LE phase 2 for suspect go fast.
A go fast is spotted and the ship's helicopter gives chase. The boat tries to evade the helicopter and starts to dump packages of suspected contraband overboard. After it refuses to stop, the chopper crew shoots out the boat's motors. Bertholf's chase boats complete the bust, netting 3 smugglers and 1,000 kilos of cocaine worth $31 million.
We're out here doing the job, day, night, rain, shine, no matter what the weather is, and we'll be doing everything we can to execute the Coast Guard's missions here at sea.
U.S. Coast Guard cutter Bertholf, a 21st century ship on the knife edge of U.S. Homeland Security, chasing smugglers and narco-terrorists on the world's oceans.